Welcome back to the Footballers' Football Show. Norman Hunter, Terry Cooper and Peter Lorimer with me this week to remember the sad passing of Billy Bremner. But what a contribution he made as a player in Leeds United's rise from Division 2 in the early 60s to the top of the game across Europe. Why did Reevy choose him as his captain?
I think it was just a natural thing, because the minute Billy stepped on a football field, he was the governor and the boss, and he automatically... Some people do it naturally. Some people can get on a football field and take charge. And Billy had this as a captain, and also his ability as a player. But also you'll remember that there was also other captains on there who probably didn't say as much as Billy, but they all got on with their jobs in different ways. And if you give the ball away, which you weren't supposed to do, by God, did you get told off as a central defender? You know, you were supposed to give it to Billy or give it to Giles or TC or Peter and that, and you weren't supposed to give the ball away, and they used to get onto you, something terrible.
I think that was Don Rivers were clever though, wasn't he? I think in the early days they did. I mean, Billy had a bit of homesick problems and that, and he wanted to go back, and he had one or two problems and he wanted to leave the club. Not because he didn't like the situation, it was a homesick situation.
Is it true, Peter, sorry to interrupt you, but is it true he had an eye on Celtic in the early days?
Yeah, Celtic were after him, and also Hibernia at that time had a very good side. They were after him. It looked like at one period he was going to go, and I think when Don sort of got him settled down with his wife, I think he thought, well, if I give him the responsibility of being the captain, it gives him something, a solid backing, that I'm here, I'm the captain of the club. And I think that was one of the ways he sort of brought him round his way of thinking round to staying with us.
How was he as a captain for Scotland?
Well, he was terrific. He was different with Scotland, because at Leeds we had Revy, who we totally respected, a great manager. He loved us as a family. But when we got up to Scotland, the managers were different. You don't have the relationship with your international manager that you have with your club manager. And when we got up there, Billy had this great knack of, you wouldn't be in a room and he might not even know a new player, but he had him part of the company, and everybody felt at home. And I think Scottish managers must have loved having Billy Bremner as their captain, because he was doing their job for them.
Although you were friends, did you play against each other, England versus Scotland?
I played once up at Hampden. And,
what was said?
Well, no, I must be honest, somebody had kicked me early doors, and I had to get my own back, but I had my head down and I didn't see it, and as it turned out, it was little Billy, and I'd absolutely buried him. And I tell you what, to this day, he never did forgive me for that. But I said to him, I apologised to him, but they were great games, weren't they, England v Scotland.
Is it true, Norman, that Don says when he came back that if you ever kick Billy again, I'll never let you go to play for England again?
We were like two little schoolboys stood outside at dressing room, outside Hampden, getting dogs abuse because we'd beaten 1-0. And there's two internationals who played X amount of games, stood there, and there's the gaffer, like the big teacher. He's telling me off for kicking him, and then Billy's saying, go on, gaffer, get on to him, tell him. And then he turned around to Billy and he said, and you spent the last 20 minutes trying to kick him back, and he did.
I think I played it at Wembley. I think we beat them 3 or 4-1, and I can remember he kept coming up to me and saying, get yourself back there. He said, don't you cross the halfway line, get yourself back there. And I'm going, no. Because there's a great rivalry between the Scottish lads and the English lads at Leeds.
What, day by day? Is that
God, Jesus. Home internationals.
They had to stop the five-a-side because the treatment room was full in 3 or 4 minutes. It was serious stuff.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
But there was that many, you know, there was that many Scottish lads, and there was that many different other nationalities. But the England v Scotland was the one. If you won, it was take the mickey time, and if you lost, you had to walk around with your head
Go
down.
home.
Get dogs abuse, you did.
Did it mean a lot to him to wear his country's jersey in the first instance and then the armband?
Yeah, Billy was very, very proud of being a Scotsman. He loved it. He wouldn't have liked to captain England. You know, he was one of these people. I mean, the thing about the football in them days, that game, the Scotland-England game, you had great games with your club and everything, but that was the game everybody wanted to play in. Especially the Scots lads, you know, it was a national pride. We'd been down in England having stick from these all year, and we couldn't wait to get them up there and put the record straight if possible. It was about even, you know. We won our share between, but there were some great games, and the great thing about the Leeds side of that time, no matter what happened in training, there was little arguments, or at international you might have a fault. There were great pals, and there was never ever a major fallout, you know. And even now, there's not a player you sort of think, oh, I don't want to see him. We had fallouts, we had a bad time together. Yeah, we all love to see each other and be in each other's company.
Socially brilliant, wasn't it? We can still do it now. We can still just get together. Man, we haven't done it for a while. Little Johnny's he's not very pleased with the situation at the moment. He thinks we should get together a bit more, and rightly so. But Peter's usually the organiser, and sometimes it's difficult to get everybody together.
More on that in just a moment, Norman. Just a word about Bremner and Scotland, Peter, from you. He won 54 caps, and his career was cut short. Did that hurt him?
Yes.
At international level?
Yes, it did, yeah. I think he was very upset when he had the problems with the Scottish FA, and
banned for 5 years, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It was a something and nothing incident that happened in Copenhagen. What it was, the under-23 team were together with the senior team, and now I wasn't there at the time, so I can't comment. Now I don't know if Billy got involved with it. He was trying to sort the trouble out or whatever, because the young boys had started off, and he'd got in. But the whole trip had got out of hand with the manager and the coach, and there was drinking problems going on, and there was a total clean out after that, the Scottish thing. And I would think it was must have killed Billy, that, because he loved playing for them. He was proud to be a Scottish captain, and he was a great Scottish captain. And I think certainly they should have looked on that and said, what he's done for us, you know, maybe a warning or a fine would have been enough.
See, given freedom from injury, if he's won 54 caps in the time he played for Scotland, he could probably, certainly have gone to 80 odd, and maybe more, maybe even 100. Which,
yeah. Well, he had this tremendous enthusiasm, and he loved his game. He was a player who wasn't injured a lot. I mean, Billy used to turn out with some injuries, and you'd look at his leg on the Thursday or the Friday, and the ankle would be all swollen, cuts, and Don would get his arm round him, come on, son, you'll be fit. And he went out there, some frightening injuries, because being little, I mean, he never shirked a tackle. He was into everything. And he picked up some horrific injuries, but he never missed many matches.
what was it about him that drove him on like this? You were all hungry players, but Bremner seemed to personify.
I don't know, just how he was brought up. I mean, I can see him now, sat in the corner of the dressing room. He got changed in the corner, and like most of the players would be getting rub downs at 2:30, stretching exercise. He'd be sat in the corner, taking the mickey out of somebody or reading something. Peter'd be in the lounge trying to get a racing result. But everybody else would be. Revy would come in, wouldn't he, at 10 to 3, he'd say what he'd got to say. Bill would pick the ball up, go out, and just play. I mean, without warming up, he'd just go play. And he's unbelievable. I can just see him sat in the corner now.
I think that was the difference between the Scots lads and the English. We're naturals. We could just go out there and enjoy the game.
But we were saying on the way coming down, if it was anything to do with running or physical stuff, Billy Bremner absolutely hated it.
He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't cross countries, pre-season training. He hated that. Hated it. But put the ball there, throw the ball on the field, and he was at home, and he'd work all day and all.
How would he have gone in the modern era where your diet's regulated, your liquid intake is very carefully regulated?
The liquid would have been all right. no, he would have been.
He'd have been a great player.
He'd have been a great player. He would have been. People ask you these questions: how would you cope and what? Great players would have coped anyway, any time, because you'd learn, you'd be fit as anybody, you'd be tactically aware as anybody else, and then your natural ability, which he had in abundance, would have just come through. He'd have been a star now.
Let me take you back to that time in the early 60s where, as I mentioned earlier, Leeds were a second division club and struggling at times in Division 2 football, from what we understand. Did Revie pick out Bremner early to say, you are going to lead my club all the way to the top in European football? Did he identify that in him?
I don't think so, because Billy was there. Billy was there as a young player from Scotland. I think Don Revie was very lucky that he got probably 8 internationals off one ground staff.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Something like
Which
that.
is in modern football trainee.
But when we joined, I mean, I can remember that, watching Leeds play in front of 8,000 looked as though we were going to get relegated. And then I think what else, Don Revie, he signed Bobby Collins. And he signed a load of players, and Billy was part of that team. I think it was a natural progression for Bill to become captain there, because he was the senior one. Apart from Jack, Bill was the senior one. So it was a progression, but Don Revie turned it round quickly. But Bobby Collins was an influence as well.
Bobby was the man he brought. But one of the great things that Revie did that nobody appreciates, hardly any player finished up playing in the position they'd arrived at the club as.
No.
I mean, you'd arrived as a forward, so had Terry.
Yeah.
Paul Reaney was a winger. Paul Madeley was a forward.
Yeah.
I was a main striker in them days, and he changed everybody around, you know, and he worked. This was his genius to move everybody around and find a place for them. It would have been very easy to say you weren't going to make it as that kind of player, let you go, but Revie's seen something in the player and moved them into a position where they all became super players.
Was Bremner, you do hear that from some teams that the captain is the man who interprets what the management want to the players. Did Bremner fulfill that role?
100%. Yeah, that was his job from dawn. You know, you'll be out there, you'll organise this and that. He knew he had Johnny there. Johnny was the brains of the side, i.e. tactically. Billy was the engine, the driver, to get everybody going, the motivator, and he had a wonderful combination. I think probably to have them two together was absolutely fantastic. And as was said before, they had Bobby Collins in a similar position that John took over doing the same job. And Bobby was very responsible in the early days to bring us all through and show us in the right direction.
Thank you, Peter. I'm just going to blow the half-time whistle for a moment, gents, and when we come back, we'll retrace the steps as Bremner led Leeds to the top of English football. See you in a moment.